Welcome back to the Not Carrie Bradshaw YouTube channel. In this video, I want to have a little bit of a more serious conversation surrounding some pop culture combos that are happening right now. And I've been quietly having this conversation with some of my friends and family behind the scenes, because before I get on here or get on Twitter or get on Instagram or any social media platform and go on a diatribe about something, I think it's really important for me personally, and I do wish more people would do this, to flesh out why I feel really offended by a certain thing. I think delving into the reasons why things offend us in the way that they do can actually teach us a lot about ourselves, so that we don't end up projecting or misplacing anger. So what I want to talk about is the fallout of the Harry and Meghan Oprah interview, which led to Piers Morgan walking off of his job, which led to Sharon Osbourne standing with him and thusly having a really tense, heated conversation with Sheryl Underwood. So let's start at the beginning. For years now, we have seen how the British tabloid press has covered Meghan Markle markedly different in the way that they covered Kate Middleton. And you have to call a thing a thing. I wish that people could understand a really easy way to define or to tell if something is racist, is sexist, is homophobic, is transphobic. Any of those phobias, any of those isms is, if this person were white, hetero, cis, etc., would this question be asked of them? Would they be looked at in this way, right? And when you juxtapose the way Kate was covered with the way Meghan was covered, the difference between these two women is that Meghan Markle is a biracial Black woman. Whether she identifies as a Black woman, listen, I don't know about her ambivalence to embrace that as an identity, but I'm also not one to force Blackness on someone who isn't very proud about it. I think this is an exceptional blessing to be Black and to be a Black woman. And if you don't want to be gang, you ain't got to be gang. I'm not going to force it on you. I will say very briefly that I'm happy for Harry and Meghan that they got out of a system that was literally killing them. And that I genuinely hope that they find a happier life elsewhere, where they can feel safer and more fulfilled and more protected. I do think that this was a unique kind of awakening for Meghan, who, I don't know where people think that that woman is white passing. She is not. Not for me. Is she very fair-skinned? Absolutely. But I don't look at her and think that that's a white woman. That's just me. I'm not going to debate that with you. I think that because she's very fair-skinned, because she's thin, because she's pretty, because she, comes from Hollywood, comes from a system of kind of being favored, she has enjoyed certain privileges that come along with having that proximity to whiteness as a biracial person. And I think that this was an awakening for her, that even someone who looks like her can also be mistreated. And I wonder if she sat back and kind of came to the conclusion that, oh, this must be what it's like for every other Black person everywhere else. I do not believe in dehumanizing people because they enjoy certain privileges. None of us have any control over the privileges that we have. That's what makes a privilege a privilege. Is something that you're just born into. I think where we run into issues is when people don't acknowledge their privilege. So I'm not going to dehumanize her and say, oh, she got what she deserved, or anything of the sort. I cannot imagine being ripped apart to that extent in such a public way. So I genuinely do feel sorry for that couple. I'm happy for them. I hope that they are able to move forward and have a fulfilling life, like I said. This then prompted the British equivalent of Good Morning America. I think it's Good Day Britain or Good Morning Britain. I don't remember because I kind of don't care. Piers Morgan, who has been a critic of Meghan Markle, was called out by one of his coworkers following this interview for the way that he has personally spoken about her, and he could not handle being critiqued, much in the same way that he has critiqued a lot of other people. He couldn't handle it. He walked off, has subsequently quit. This then prompted reality star Sharon Osbourne to empower him, which, does this white man need to be empowered? Ask yourself some hard questions, by saying that she stands with him and this is what he's paid to do. And I don't understand why he's paid to give his opinion and that's acceptable, but the other news anchor, who's also paid arguably for his opinion and his coverage of things, and he's not allowed to also be critical of Piers. So again, would you ask this question? Would you be in defense of this person were they not white and were they not your friend? What upset me about this is that Sharon got on her show and went full victim mode and got incredibly defensive as Sheryl Underwood, who's a co-host and a national Black treasure, one of our iconic comedians, tried to have what I thought was a very respectful conversation with her about why what Piers Morgan has done is considered racist. I got so triggered by the way Sharon Osbourne spoke to Sheryl Underwood, and I don't know if it's because you look at Sheryl as like an auntie, like an elder. She's a Black person who has been around most of my life. From Comic View to, everything else that she's done, she's been there. And to see this older white woman talk to her as if she was a child, I think what really sent me over the edge is when she told her, "Don't you dare cry, because if anybody has the right to cry, it's me." It was such a microcosm of what it is like to be a Black person in this country where everyone else's pain supersedes ours. Physical pain, emotional pain. It's like we're just never believed and people are always so quick to say, educate me, but you aren't actually looking to be educated, Sharon Osbourne. You want it to be validated. You want it to be reassured that you aren't a racist. And when it comes to that word, I think white people feel like it's worse to be called a racist than to actually be one. And we saw that really play out. And what I want to discuss is I felt really, really triggered and I felt really upset with Sheryl because I was like, I know you're not letting this white lady talk to you like this. And I really had to sit with that because I'm like, well, I also don't feel comfortable making you the bad guy here for how you felt that you needed to handle this, because she was talking to her and handling her with kid gloves with a level of restraint and calmness that is likened to professionalism. Professionalism is a very loaded term because I think that what makes something professional or what makes something in accordance with decorum, a lot of times it comes with these limitations that basically kind of cut certain people, certain identities out of spaces where they're not desired. That's how I view it. It's a very, I think that we do in workplaces where people just got to go to make money. There has to be some standard, but I do find trouble sometimes with that standard because I feel that when it comes to Black women, things that we do get misinterpreted to be unprofessional when sometimes white women can do those same things and it's acceptable. That's a really hard thing to deal with in the workplace, and that's why I was triggered, because I had to think about the fact that I've been working since I was 15 years old, and I have had a number of white women speak to me the way that Sharon Osbourne spoke to Sheryl Underwood, who is an adult. Like, y'all both grown. So I don't care if I'm younger than you. You should not feel comfortable speaking to me, another adult, in the way that she spoke to her and in the way that I have been spoken to in some workspaces, especially coming from fashion. the way that we sometimes get infantilized as Black women, where we are either spoken to with a level of condescension as if we are like a toddler, or we're spoken to as if we're petulant teenagers who don't know what we're doing. And in those moments, I have frozen because I have felt like the only way that I can respond to this is in a way that's going to be conducive to me losing my job and possibly going to jail. And I'm looking at Sheryl Underwood, who has been a comedian, who has been in the public eye for such a long time, who's had this long career. And I'm like, I know that there was a way that you could have at least checked her on her tone, especially because she, kept saying like she considers her a friend. Why are you not okay letting your friend know that she shouldn't be speaking to you like that? And I have been in that situation too. I don't know Sheryl Underwood personally, obviously, but I know me personally. I have a bit of a temper sometimes. I can go a bit far to some people. And from my perspective, I always tell people, if you go punch someone in the face and they stab you back, did they escalate the violence? Absolutely. But you put them in a position to escalate the violence. Maybe they wouldn't have stabbed you if you didn't punch them in the face. This is just like a very extreme example of what I mean. When you offend a person and you have no remorse for it, you really don't get to determine how they respond to it. And because I know that I can go to that place, I'm very cautious of not responding at all, because I feel like I don't, in the moment, I don't feel like I can do this in a way that's going to be productive. And what this situation, or watching this conversation between Sharon Osbourne and Sheryl Underwood, made me realize is that I will never do that again. I will never again allow someone to speak to me in that regard and not say anything to defend myself, because seeing it from the other side and knowing that I have been in that position, and people will always say what they would do. You don't know until you've been in that position. And if you have the privilege to not care whether or not whether or not you lose your job and your livelihood, good for you. We don't all have that privilege. I find it so upsetting. I have observed in office settings, white people completely go off on people for such minor things, such minor inconveniences, and they get praised for it. Particularly white women, or just non-Black women, but particularly white women get praised for being very stern, leaning in, being very matter of fact with people, that you were empowered, you were fierce, you were this and you were that. But when Black women speak with anything other than Care Bear language, we're aggressive. People fear for their lives. People, I literally just looked at someone one day because they said something I didn't understand, and that person cried. And I was just like, but you just basically told me to kind of fuck off a couple of weeks ago, and and here we are. So why is it okay for you to be fierce and empowered and matter of fact and what's the word I'm looking for? All those things. It's assertive. It's okay for you to be assertive, but it's not okay for me. And I really hate that Black women have been run off from expressing negative emotions because we're afraid of being called an angry Black woman. I think that if anyone has the right to be angry, it's us. And I don't think that that's something that we should be running from. I think that people need to take our anger more seriously. I think that especially when we try to pull people in. I have absolutely had a situation with a friend. I'm from Atlanta, Cam Newton. I don't know how many times I say that on this channel, but I'm from Atlanta. I'm very new, relatively new to having friends who are not Black. I had a friend a couple of years ago who did something that was not okay. And I was trying to explain to her that her privilege really led her to basically kind of physically assault someone at work. She pushed someone, very long story for another day. And because this person was my friend, someone who I care about, who I have shared things with, who has been supportive of me, I really tried to explain to her, this is why this is not okay, and this is why you need to apologize. And she said to me, I'm not going to apologize but for being white. And if he wants an apology, he needs to come to me. And I was just like, I don't think that you understand what it means for you, a white woman, to physically impose yourself on a black man. That could have gone so wrong for him. And it's important to me that you see that. She burst into tears. She was the victim. She went and told other people that this situation that she inserted herself into, and where she was the aggressor, she somehow made herself the victim. And I distanced myself from her because I did not know I can't make you see something that you kind of don't see. And it wasn't until the revelation that all white people seem to have had, with George Floyd's murder being recorded, that she called and wanted to have the conversation with me of, I get it now and I'm so sorry. And my retort was that I believe that you're sorry, but it's very telling that it took you witnessing someone being murdered to understand what someone who was your friend was trying to very gently tell you. And because we were all on lockdown and everyone was forced to face the murder of George Floyd, I think that was the first time for a lot of white people that they actually believed that black people are in pain. I think that was their first time seeing irrefutable evidence that black people can be victims. And what frustrates me so much is that a lot of the white women who went to marches and posted black squares and donated money and did X, Y, and Z to show their support for black people and Black Lives Matter, those same white women go into office spaces, go into places of business, and talk to black people, particularly black women, the way Sharon Osbourne spoke to Sheryl Underwood. So what does it amount to if you've had this awakening and you're reading and you're listening and you want to be educated, if you are not willing to face the fact that in some instances you have been wrong, or that you yourself have upheld white supremacy? If we're not all willing to approach conversations with the possibility that we could be wrong, there's no point in us having the conversation. And I can understand not wanting to be labeled a racist, but I also understand the harm that it does when people don't own the ways in which they can and have been harmful. And I'm happy that there are people who are applauding Sheryl Underwood for her restraint, but it was definitely a teachable moment for me that I never want to do that. I want to be able to professionally and productively, the word I want to use more, productively, moving forward, let people as a whole know you cannot speak to me like that. And if you feel like you can, we're going to have problems moving forward. I'm a human adult person. Speak to me like a human adult person, the same way that I'm speaking to you as a human adult person. And let's go from there. And again, I don't want to limit this to white women. I've absolutely had white men do this to me as well, 100%. But just this is the example that was very triggering for me, and that called me to chorus, that I was like, this is something that I want to talk about as black women. And I know across the board, we are not all going to be empowered to do this. Some of us work in places where we have no voice and we can't say anything. But for those of us who can, I really want to admonish you to stand up for yourself in a way that is productive and that lets people know we are human adult people and we don't need to be spoken to like toddlers or petulant teenagers. So that's my thoughts on that. Let me know what you guys thought. and if this is something that you have encountered and how you have dealt with it in a way that's productive and professional. So I definitely want to hear from you in the comments. I would like to have productive conversations in the comments, so keep it cute. I don't want to hear any not all. Save that for your group text with your friends. We all know not all anything. We're not going to paint with a broad brush here. I'm speaking to my experience and what I witnessed. So be sure to subscribe and like and share, and let's have a productive dialogue about this and support each other during this time and moving forward. So I'll see you guys later. Bye.